Dylan Raiola is out. How does the big news change what remains in this football season for Nebraska? We tackle it next.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase.
All right, welcome. It is Monday. I'm Connor Happer here from 1620 The Zone. Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Got news yesterday early afternoon that the injury to Dylan Raiola is, in fact, a season-ending injury. He will miss the final 3 games of the regular season with a broken fibula. And, of course, the second iteration of Nebraska's season and the final iteration of Nebraska's season begins today. And it looks a whole lot different without Dylan Raiola at quarterback.
This is obviously a fork in the road or like a sharp turn for Nebraska. Now the ball goes to TJ Lateef, the true freshman. We'll get to what that means here in this episode. We should just take a moment to say what it means for Raiola. With a break, a fracture, he's going to be out for a period of months. Probably hear more about the prognosis from Matt Rule on Monday, and if Raiola could return potentially for spring ball. I mean, Nebraska has the luxury of actually being able to move or shift a bit. It's do the Huskers want to push spring ball back a couple of weeks? At times they've started after spring break. At times they've started before spring break. Does the status of Dylan Raiola and when he would be able to move on this leg impact that? That's all stuff for way down the road. He finishes his sophomore season with exactly 2,000 passing yards, 181 to 250, 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions in 9 games. And clearly the Nebraska offense has to adjust. Dana Holgorsen has to adjust. Just a tough deal for Dylan. He was sacked 16 times and 2 losses against Minnesota and Michigan. And, I think we sat here and said a dozen times, if this continues, he's going to get hurt. It's really difficult to withstand that kind of heat throughout a season. And of late, Nebraska's done a better job protecting him. Sacked just once in 2+ quarters of play on Saturday against USC, and the one did him in. So that's it for Dylan Raiola, the former 5-star, as a sophomore. He'll be back, of course, as a junior, but now the ball and the story shifts to a true freshman, TJ Lateef.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think for Dylan, everything's sort of on the table. But I don't think that my guess would be, that we're not in any sort of danger of him not being there for spring ball. I don't think that we're looking at that sort of significance of an injury at this point. Like the way it seemed, I guess, on Saturday night, but I guess it didn't seem like he had a broken fibula either. So,
right.
That'd
be about 5 months away. So you're right. I mean, that's a bone break should certainly heal at that point. I mean, you just don't know if he's got any other kind of damage to the ankle.
Right. I think he should be recovered in plenty of time for that. But then you start to wonder about, how this season ends. Like, there's a whole bunch of scenarios that go through your head. For example, if TJ Lateef is really good, what does that mean for Dylan Raiola? If TJ Lateef is really bad, what does that mean for Dylan Raiola? If Nebraska's not able to figure it out offensively, like you would think that Dylan is going to be sitting and watching on the side and sort of, thinking, hey, if I really only do have 1 year left in my college career, do I want to do it here? Do I need a fresh start? And all those things. That's an evaluation point for everybody. So he could sit around and kind of watch that while as well being a leader, just not on the field over the next 3 regular season games plus a bowl game at this point. So yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that's on the table, and a lot of stuff changes here in the last couple months.
I think it's only fair with Dylan at this point to continue this conversation with the belief that the only option, or that the far and away most likely option for him, is that he is back as the starting quarterback at Nebraska as a junior. He has done everything above and beyond in this season to take ownership in this program, be a leader in this program, be the guy who is instrumental in taking Nebraska to the next level. And that business remains unfinished now with this injury 3/4 of the way through his sophomore season. So, everything is a question. There are always questions about every player in this era that we live in college football. But as he rehabs through this thing, it would stun me at this point here on November 3rd if he were to even consider going through that anywhere other than Lincoln, Nebraska, where he has so much comfort and so much at his disposal to be able to help him have the best outcome through this injury.
Me too. For the record, it just seems like, it has to be a conversation for everybody, especially at that position. And so you sort of wonder what a new perspective might do for him. It's
he's going to get that. He's going to get that perspective of sitting and watching.
He's never had
anything
anything
good for him
really like this. It could be good for him. It could be bad for him. I don't know how he's going to, I don't know. We don't know what type of guy he is to be able to sort of handle this. And so, I don't know. We'll see.
He's such a creature of habit, and lives in that routine of immediately getting on to the next week of preparation. And his off season is so regimented. We've seen him in both of his off seasons at Nebraska do a lot of the same things, and act like an NFL quarterback in training. And now you get this curveball. This is something that NFL quarterbacks have to go through. Look at the injury list in the NFL, and you happen to Jaden Daniels yesterday, and every week there's a star quarterback in the NFL who is facing something like what Dylan's going through now. So this in itself, while absolutely it's kind of the I wrote this morning about the "Welcome to Your Worst Nightmare" sign being displayed at Memorial Stadium on Saturday in the student section. I don't think this is what they had in mind, but this is kind of the worst nightmare for Nebraska to have its the face of its program go down at this point. Dylan can now have this experience of rehabbing and knowing how to deal with a difficult, unexpected situation before he goes off on the next journey of his football career, which presumably will come a little over a year from now. If all goes well through this rehab and he has the junior season that he hopes to have and that he set himself up to have with this year, which was an improvement over his freshman year, then in 2027, he's going to be preparing for the NFL draft, and this best case scenario, shining a silver, looking at it from a silver lining point of view, this will help him prepare for both his junior year and his NFL career and beyond.
The Dylan part is super interesting, but there's a lot of questions or thoughts in there that can't really be addressed until, at the very least, he returns to practice, and then probably he returns to a game, which is to start next year. But there's a lot of things that and we're going to spend a lot of time in this podcast just asking questions. I think there is a very interesting inflection point, obviously, in the career of TJ Lateef right now. That is about to happen over the next 3 games. There is a very interesting inflection point, I think, for Dana Holgorsen and how he designs an offense, and what does that do to him, and the options sort of become a little bit more concise and limited. Is that a good thing for the offense? Is that a bad thing for the offense? And then Matt Rule, they got to finish this season with a couple wins here.
They can do it.
Yeah.
The season is not lost.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Let's start quickly with Lateef. And I think this is so interesting because now we're going to know. We're going to know what Nebraska has in TJ Lateef going into 2026 based on the way the next 3 weeks, the next 4 weeks, 3 games, and the bowl game go for him. He's going to have an opportunity to get a jump start on what could become the future for Nebraska. They're going to presumably go back to Raiola next year. And Lateef is somebody, he's getting an audition right now too. Let's not gloss over that. TJ now gets an audition, not just for Nebraska, but he'll face a decision after this season as well on what his future looks like, whether it's at Nebraska. And this is a great opportunity for him to go out and show what he's got, and a great opportunity for Nebraska to see what it has in potentially its long-term future starting quarterback beyond 2026. Or maybe there's I don't know what next season looks like. And I was going to say a QB competition, but like, let's let TJ get a couple starts under his belt before we break that out. Is the future for Nebraska Dayton Raiola and Trey Taylor, or is it TJ Lateef? We're going to have a lot better idea of that after we watch November football.
Yeah. I mean, at least you'll have, like you said, I mean, we had spent a lot of time, or some corners of the internet and the Nebraska fan base spent a lot of time this season asking about TJ Lateef and what he was up to and how can we get this guy in the game. And there is a certain element to the backup quarterback where until, you really like him, or you really like the idea of him because you've had the little appetizer. He played well in the Houston Christian and the Akron games. So now we get the full meal. Like if you're the chef at the restaurant, you gotta really show it all. And who knows what people will think about him over the next, after the next 3 games of the regular season and then potentially a bowl game. I mean, yeah. And for the record, like I do think, like you said, Mitch, before, I think Nebraska's capable of winning, and I think he's capable of putting Nebraska in the right position to do so. And we'll see what changes this week with a week of prep, and he's the starter. And but it's a steep learning curve. Usually, when a freshman takes over, they take over and they play early in the season against non-conference opponents, and the weather is nice, and there's not a whole lot of pressure there. When quarterbacks are making their first couple starts, well, he's going to make his first start in the Rose Bowl on the road in a game that Nebraska's got to win. So that's a little different.
Well, the weather will be nice, and he'll be at home. He'll feel comfortable. I would think in the greater Los Angeles area where he's from. Let's come back after this and talk about what that game Saturday night against UCLA might look like with TJ Lateef in charge. That's next. A message from Game Time, because college football is getting to that part of the season when the excitement ramps up, the tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands gets even better in November. There's just nothing like it. But actually getting tickets to get into the game can feel like quite the battle as you handle and deal with endless queues, hidden fees, prices that jump at checkout. That's why I prefer to use Game Time. It's the app that gives the advantage back to fans, the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best price with no surprise fee. What you pay is what you see. You can take advantage of zone deals. With that, you pick the sections, Game Time picks the seats, and then you, as the fan, save the money. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today.
All right, welcome back. Connor Epper, Mitch Sherman with you. Matt Rule will speak on Monday afternoon to talk about, a lot of things. Maybe provide an injury update on a guy like Elijah Pritchett, whose injury
left tackle.
Whose injury definitely looms large over the entire rest of the season. I do want to say this, without knowing what the injury situation is with anybody else. Like, I think with TJ Lateef at quarterback, with a week of prep behind him, and the plan with TJ being so obvious and sort of how to handle him and what to do and all that stuff. Now we'll see what the injury situation is on Pritchett, and I mean, they're really thin on offensive linemen at this point, so that has an impact on this. But like, your options as an offensive coordinator and how to devise the game plan all of a sudden become a little bit limited. And I don't mind that. I think Nebraska's had a lot on their plate over this stretch of the season. They're trying to get the ball to a lot of people, and oftentimes it feels like they're forcing it. So with a succinct game plan of put the ball on the ground and hand it to Emmett Johnson 27 times and getting Lateef going on the ground as well, like, I don't mind that spot for Nebraska. Now you still have to find a way to utilize those wide receivers and all that stuff, because they're still a strong point with the team. But I don't mind taking a couple of the things off of Dana Holgorsen's menu going into Saturday.
I think it allows him to refocus in a way that could bring out some creativity. Obviously, running the offense and calling the offense with Dylan Raiola in charge is the best case scenario for any offensive coordinator who would be in Dana Holgorsen's shoes at this point. But you're going to run you're going to run a certain style. Like, Nebraska's going to run a pro style offense with Dylan Raiola that best suits his skill set. With Lateef, the question is it's different. Eventually, TJ wants to be that kind of a quarterback who can do the things that Dylan does, and coming to the line of scrimmage and reading a defense and making checks and going through progressions. But that's just not who he is right now in this Nebraska offense. That's not his strength. His strength is going to be to use his athleticism to go with quick reads, screen passes, rollouts where he's got one or two receivers that he's looking at, and if that's not open, he's going to run. He has a good arm to be able to take some shots downfield. Nebraska has receivers who can get open downfield, all three of the top three. I did go back and watch the play where Lateef fumbled the snap, and there was so much talk about how Ja'Cory Barney was right there on a screen. It was open. It was open. I don't know that he takes it to the house, although Nebraska was at like the 20-yard line at that place, so it wasn't going to need to be a long run. I think that USC had some players in position. It would have been a gain. It would have been a decent gain. He for sure had room. And so TJ is going to have to work this week on that sure-handedness, making sure that he catches the snaps, making sure when he's running with the football that he puts it away. There were two instances where he lost the ball out of bounds when he was hit. So, but that's a lot. Like, he wasn't expecting to play on Saturday night. And for all that you say, you can talk about with a backup quarterback and, you're one snap away and you always have to be ready to go in. It's different when you have a week to prepare and you know that it's going to happen, and you can go through warmups and know that you're the guy who's going to be catching those snaps. Like, he should look a lot more prepared out there against UCLA than what we saw in the second half against USC.
So here's the tricky part of that, because you that'll be decided how comfortable he looks on Saturday. That will be decided tomorrow and Wednesday, because they just have to be really careful with how much they put on his plate. I am really curious, and I think Dana Holgorsen, obviously, and the offensive staff, they're really smart, so they understand that they have to pare it down a little bit. But I've seen it where, quarterback takes over for the first time, and it's like he's just looking around like deer in the headlights. Like, I don't know what to do. And that comes from the week of preparation before, because he thinks he has to do everything, and he thinks he has to be something he's not. And so they have to make it a game plan that fits TJ. And I think to start, the most obvious thing that he brings to the table is his ability to make plays with his legs. So I think you'll just see a lot of that, probably, hopefully. I think for Nebraska's sake on Saturday night. Yeah, absolutely. Like read option, some RPO stuff that gets thrown in there. He can clearly throw the ball. I mean, I think he's pretty advanced. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He just doesn't do it as crisply and as cleanly as Dylan Raiola does. And that's why he wasn't the starter. But like, if you're putting him on the scale of quarterbacks who, Nebraska, how bleeped has Nebraska been when their starting quarterback gets injured and the second guy starts to walk onto the field. I've seen a lot worse. As we have all seen a lot worse of backup quarterbacks at Nebraska than you could do with TJ. So I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, a very talented guy, and he fashions himself like as a pocket passer. You don't want to say, hey, you're a dual threat. I watched him play in high school last year, and I talked to him after the game about that, and he's like, "Whoa, hold on, I'm not a dual threat," because he ran the ball well in that game, and he wants to be seen as a Dylan Raiola type of quarterback. But the reality is he has a presence and more of a sense of what's going on around him, and just a natural ability to escape and get yards. And Nebraska's going to have to use that. But you're absolutely right in that the game plan will be pared down. He's going to have a certain set of plays that he can do, and I think it's going to be fun to watch. And if they execute it, Nebraska can do some things on offense against UCLA on Saturday night. The question: who's the backup? What does Nebraska do as the number 2? Is it Jalen Gramstad? Do you say, all right, Jalen Gramstad, who's never played a significant snap above the NAIA level, you are one play away from going into the game and being the quarterback that Nebraska needs to rely on to win here in the Big Ten? Or are you getting Heinrich Haarberg ready to go back in and do what he did two years ago?
I don't know the answer to that question. I think you keep them both on the table as options. I don't know what the first thing, like if TJ goes out and whatever, he gets hurt, he's got to go out of the game, and whether for any period of time. Yeah, I guess the first thing you do is put Jalen Gramstad in the game and have him hand it off, and then you go from there. But I'd think that they're both options, emergency options at this point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Emergency. You're the backup. What does this mean for Emmett Johnson? We have talked the last couple of weeks about how Emmett Johnson is playing at an all Big Ten level. That is no longer a debate. The debate is whether he is the best running back, like in line to be the Big Ten running back of the year. That's very much in play for Emmett right now. He's the only Power 4 back in the country over 1,000 yards. He's at 1,002 yards through 9 games. There are 2 running backs in the country over 1,000 yards at this point. So he's clearly an all Big Ten back this year and should receive some All-American consideration.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's been incredible. And then you'll think about the load that he has to carry over the last 3
what
games.
Does this mean for him? It could actually be good because the defense is going to have to commit somebody to the quarterback in the run game.
It could be. I mean, he now becomes
where they can load the box.
Yeah, he now becomes primary feature 1A, like star. Not that he wasn't really before, but like now you don't have to worry about the quick. I don't know. You still have to worry about it a little bit, but like it makes it probably a little bit more difficult for him. I wonder if it makes it different for guys like Isaiah Mosey or Mekhi Nelson, who get into the game a little bit, and maybe this offense is just a little bit more kind of spread out with your ability to run the quarterback a little bit. Like, I don't know, maybe those guys have a different opportunity now.
I think that's more after the bye week, to be honest. Like, this is going to be a hurry up and let's get this thing in order for UCLA Saturday night. They've only got a couple days to put this game plan in, and it's going to be somewhat simple. And then they have a bye week before Nebraska goes to Penn State. And that's when I think you could see them really make some interesting things happen involving players like Isaiah Mosey and Heinrich Haarberg and others who've been on the fringe as contributors this season. You're going to need them to win at Penn State. You're certainly going to need to be diverse and get the ball in the hands of a lot of players against Iowa on Black Friday. And Nebraska has plenty of offensive talent. Like, just because Dylan Raiola is gone, the offensive talent on this roster is still there. And TJ Lateef could be a guy who can be the distributor here over the next 3 games. It's a very intriguing situation.
It is. So we'll have plenty more on that this week, and we'll hear Matt Rule talk about it. Can we spend a couple minutes on Nebraska's defense, just both from Saturday night and then what it looks like now going forward? We'll do that when we return here on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. But first, a word from the FanDuel Sportsbook, where we continue to roll on in the National Football League. FanDuel is making sure you are ready to go with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if that bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel is fantastic because it fits however you'd like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick and it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little bit more energy to your long NFL Sundays. Yesterday felt very long as a Sunday in general, but as an NFL Sunday, it felt like the day was 100 hours long. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel.com and place that first $5 bet today.
Isn't it funny how you can add 1 hour to the day, which happened yesterday on Sunday, and you feel like the day is actually 4 days long?
Yeah, I was like, it's Carrie Underwood is playing at 7:15. I'm like, all right, it's bedtime. Let's go. You know,
my wife is like that. Like, it'll take her 3 months to adjust to either of the daylight savings time transitions. I'm fine. It takes me like an hour. I didn't feel any of that stuff yesterday.
We're back to normal today, but yesterday always, the Sunday the daylight savings time changes, it's always like a really long day because it's dark for so long while you're awake too. It just makes for that long extension.
I like the people who believe that the sun actually changed and that the sun is down for a longer period of time. It's like they just shifted the clocks here. So I like
are getting shorter every day still, but
true. Yeah. But it didn't change by an hour. It changed by like 2 minutes, just like it does every day.
Correct.
I like that Sunday, the first Sunday of November or whenever the daylight savings time turns off each year, because it's kind of great to sit back sometimes and, like, especially if I'm working, which I obviously was yesterday, and look at the clock, and in my head it's 3:00, and then I'm like, oh, it's 2. I got an extra. I felt several times yesterday like I had an extra hour. All right, the Nebraska defense. So if you were in the camp after the game Saturday night, and I heard some of these people on the call-in shows when I was making my way back to Omaha on I-80, who were upset about the defense and King Miller, USC's big walk-on at running back, who's a talented guy. Did you see that he was gashing the Nebraska defense? 15 yards, 13 yards, 14 yards. Like, can't John Butler, can't they ever get it together? Like, check yourself. USC scored 21 points. USC put up 337 yards of offense, which is about 200 below their average. King Miller, for all the nice chunk runs that he had, finished with 18 carries, 129 yards. That's not bad. Like, Nebraska controlled Jaden Mayava. I would say the number one thing that was annoying from a defensive perspective for Nebraska in that game is that Mayava got loose on the ground to run for 62 himself. You take that out of the equation, you're okay with King Miller. You're okay with what Mayava did through the air. You take that out of the equation, Mayava's running, and credit to Lincoln Riley for finding that. And I think Nebraska wins this game even without Dylan Raiola in the second half.
Well, I think it's just really a tough pill for people to swallow because, they hear people like us say all the time, like, you have to be able to stop the run to win in the Big Ten. Like, we just pound it in your head over and over again. And that's correct. I mean, you do, or at least you would rather, but I don't know. Like, I feel like I've been a broken record the entire year talking about how this defense is set up. And it's just like, it's just a truth that you have to sort of tell yourself. Nebraska is young and undersized up front, and they are attempting to be more pressure oriented and explosive on the defensive side. So they're stunting and twisting, and oftentimes they're out of position and stuff like that. So you're going to give up big runs. I mean, dating back to the start of the year, they've given up big runs. Justice Haynes and whatever running back in between. And now, King Miller popping off like nonstop 15-yard runs.
The long of 16. He had a long of 16 on Saturday. He had several in that 13 to 16 range, but they did prevent the big 40, 50-yard run.
Yeah, right. And so, one way or the other, those running backs are able to do their thing. But Nebraska's pass defense has proven to be pretty elite. Maiyava wasn't very good as far as accuracy was concerned on Saturday night. But like you said, Mitch, what does it all total out to at the end of the day? It ends up at 21 points. It ends up in a couple crucial stops on 3rd and 4th down. One in the third quarter that gave Nebraska the ball back, and of course set up a disastrous drive. But
disaster.
I don't know, man. Like, as soon as people accept that Nebraska is just young and small up front, and they're going to give up some runs, like, the better off your psyches are going to be. It's more difficult, but like, it's a truth that I think that people have to accept at this point.
Yeah. So with Maiyava, he was off. He wasn't real accurate. And I heard like, he's from Hawaii. The 40-degree weather was impacting him. It's like, when are we going to give credit to the Nebraska pass defense and the secondary? Like, some of the reason that he was off was because of the looks that John Butler was giving him. And Mekhi Lemon,
Andrew Marshall was balling, and then, like you're about to say, Mekhi Lemon getting locked up by Ceyair Wright all night.
Ceyair Wright, forget all Big Ten. He's all Big Ten. Does he get it? Probably not, because there'll be an Ohio State corner in that spot, justifiably. But you just like, okay, so if you're picking the all Big Ten team and you're going through, so like, put an Ohio State cornerback there, and then who's the next best one? And it's probably, somebody from Michigan or USC or Oregon or Indiana. And that's just how the voting works. Like, Ceyair Wright is an all Big Ten defensive back. I don't know if he's going to get on the team. We talk about Emmett Johnson. The coaches do know. Yeah. The coaches do know. He's another guy who should be in consideration for All-American honors. Mekhi Lemon, 4 targets. They only targeted him 4 times. 2 catches. One of them was a handoff on the first possession of the game for 18 yards. That's Ceyair Wright. That was his job on Saturday night, to defend Mekhi Lemon. And as Lincoln Riley told Ceyair Wright after the game, man, you were all over the field. Yeah, because he went where Mekhi Lemon went. Mekhi Lemon will be an all Big Ten receiver. He had a terrible night because of the former USC Trojan. So he's somebody that you rely on absolutely in moving this defense forward. And the great thing is that not only is he your best defensive player, he's also probably your best locker room guy. So they're going to use him as somebody to help rally the defense in this situation. Is the defense ready to step up to this challenge where Nebraska is now handicapped on the offensive side, limited somewhat on the offensive side without its quarterback? Can the defense rise to this moment? And they will face a challenge on Saturday. We've said several times, okay, this is the best quarterback that Nebraska's played all year. Whether it was Bryce Underwood, or Maiyava coming in on Saturday night. Now you got Nico Iamaleava in the Rose Bowl, in his hometown, nice weather, comfortable situation. And he's a dual threat guy. How does Nebraska defend Iamaleava?
Yeah, say what you want about Nebraska's defense, and we laid out their issues, and their issues are their issues, but like, they have an identity. I mean, they know what they're trying to be. And they know what their sort of formula is to be able to win games on the defensive side of the ball. I talked about this a couple weeks ago. I think they need to punch a couple more fumbles out. They need to get some more turnovers. They need to be more explosive in that way. And then obviously you'd love to be a little bit more havoc-y as far as getting to the quarterback is concerned. But they're, from a functional standpoint, like they're doing what they're asked at this point. So yeah, there's when you have a quarterback that goes out, and you have your star quarterback that goes out, and you put a lot of trust in him, there's a lot of things that change. So I imagine the defense will take this as an opportunity to say, all right, let's go then, put it on our shoulders. So I'm excited to see what that looks like on Saturday.
It's Ceyair Wright. It's Ceyair Wright against Nico Iamaleava, and it's John Butler against Jerry Neuheisel in this game on Saturday night. So
amazing.
Yeah. We're going to have to exhaust the Jerry Neuheisel storylines as the week goes on.
How old is that guy? Like 12?
I don't know. What?
I think he's 12. No, he clearly loves UCLA, but I think he's 14 years old, and he's
Can he play at UCLA?
Yeah.
As an 8-year-old, he's 33.
Okay,
right?
He's my age, but he looks 12.
The only 33-year-old named Jerry
really?
out there.
He sounds exactly like his dad and looks exactly like. It's amazing. But I can't wait this is going to be a fun week, I think. It'll be fun and like air quotes, I guess. But like it's very, very different. There's a whole lot of storylines. I mean, the next 2 games for Nebraska against teams that have been whoa. It's just so far up and down. And then you throw in the fact
interim coaching staffs, 2 in a row against interim coach. So Nebraska's dealing with it, going through it on the on its side with the dealing with the quarterback injury, and these 2 teams, UCLA and then Penn State after the bye.
This is November football.
Obviously going through some stuff too. Last thing, let's take 1 minute. We're going to ask Matt Rule today what he thought about the hit that injured Dylan Raiola. So in watching it from certain angles, you can clearly see that this was a hip drop tackle from Anthony Lucas, the USC defensive end, who basically hurdled Emmett Johnson. It was an extremely athletic play, hurdled Emmett in pass pro, and then just jumped on Dylan Raiola as he fell to the ground. This is legal in college football. It is allowed. It is illegal in the NFL. So the question is, when you see this and you're the head coach who just lost his quarterback, his multi-million-dollar quarterback, are you now pushing for college football to make that kind of a tackle illegal? It's nasty to look at the way that he got pulled to the ground by Anthony Lucas.
Yeah, I imagine he'll say something just because that's what he likes to do.
Textbook hip drop tackle. Like this is what you send around to college coaches and administrators in making the argument about how this should be outlawed in the college game.
And he'll probably have a comment. He'll have a lot of comments today on how UCLA is coming off a bye and every team that they've played is coming off of a bye this year. So expect that too.
And Nebraska has back-to-back road trips on opposite sides of the country before a Friday night game. We'll get that too.
Yep. Exciting. All right. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Big Ten, a conference that spans coast to coast from sea to shining sea. Find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.